14, and we are two brown chicks changing the face of therapy on both sides of the couch. Yes.
We appreciate you joining us this week. We have Miss Millana Snow,
Woo!
who is a model. She is a Reiki healer. She's an actor. You've been on TV. You've helped huge companies. You've worked with them. And so we're going to learn all about what she does and how she helps women heal and create spaces for women in their healing. So thank you so much for joining us, Millana.
Thank you for having me. So happy to be with you guys. If my dog just starts like getting up in the camera, you guys don't be surprised. She's like in the area right now.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit? I know you have a couple different businesses, Serene Social and WellnessOfficial. Can you explain a little bit about your journey into healing and what made you create these two platforms?
Yeah, so I actually, I've been an entrepreneur for about 7 years now. But really, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, actually. That's really the truth. And my first company was Serene Social, and I have actually transitioned that company into my current company, which is called WellnessOfficial. When I started doing Serene, it was 2012. I was living in New York. I really was tired of being a model. I realized it was not the right place for me to be, not the right industry for me to really try to fit myself into. I actually had moved from Houston, Texas, which is where you guys are, right? You guys in Houston?
Yeah.
Southwest, Mo City, you know? And I moved from Houston to New York when I was 18, and then I went to City College there, became a model, worked at Vibe magazine and Uptown magazine and a few other magazines actually while I was in college. That's how I paid my way through school. And then when I graduated from college, I was casted on this show called Project Runway. And Project Runway kind of changed my whole trajectory because I was then able to go from working in magazines and being a college student, which I had then graduated from, to then being on this TV show and going into modeling and acting full time. And it was really after about 2 years, I realized this is not for me. This is not the right fit. I'm not made to be a fashion model. My body, my skin color, my hair type, it's not working for this industry right now. So I got to get out. So I did, and that's when I started my first company. And it was really to counterbalance that because I wanted to do something that actually had meaning, that had purpose, something I could really truly be proud of, not just because of, what was on TV, but because I knew what the impact was internally.
Right, right. So you felt like you needed to make a transition because modeling just wasn't what you felt was for you. It wasn't in alignment with what you wanted.
Totally.
Looking back, it sounds like it was a gradual sort of process of you sort of seeing like, I don't think this is for me. Was there a particular incident or something that happened that really was the turning point for you where you're like, this is not what I need to be doing?
That's a really good question. I mean, especially since we're on this show, I really like to go even deeper into like the backstory of that because a lot of people, have not heard me speak to this, even my own friends. I think one of the biggest things that I had to really come to terms with was that I did not have a body that fit into the industry. And I had to work extremely hard to keep my body at a certain size. At one point, and I actually wrote an article about it that's on my blog to this day. At one point, I was down to 124 pounds. I'm 5'10". It was, I made myself a promise that I wouldn't, I wouldn't purge, I wouldn't do drugs. And that was like my container. Like I won't throw up and I won't do drugs, but I'll do everything else I have to do to stay that skinny because I was told that that was the only possibility for me, that I had to be a certain size to be able to model because I was 5'10". And so, I would go into my agency every single day for months and they would measure me every single day, measure my thighs, measure my hips, measure my arms, like around my arms. And what it took for me to be 124 pounds was just like, it took me hours of working out. I could barely eat. I had to drink coffee all day, every day. And it was really, I think the turning point for me was, I had a breakup with a guy who was a male model. And this male model, who is actually from Houston, ironically, he was like killing it. He was making lots of money. And, you know, I was like 19 years old, and he was like just really successful. And I was so in love with him. And he's like, you know, if you really want to be a fashion model, you got to lose weight. You got to lose weight. You can't be this skinny. Because when I came from Houston, I was doing like music videos. And like, I was doing like Coogee campaigns, literally. And then, you know, he's like, if you really want to model, you're going to come from Houston, you got to lose all this weight. So I lost all this weight. And when him and I were like officially broken up about 2 years later, when it was like really, really over, I was like, why did I really do this? You know, what is this really about? I had so much anxiety and sadness about being heartbroken from this relationship, and realized that one of the reasons why I had lost all this weight was actually because I was trying to fit an archetype of a model that I thought this male model had told me was right, based off of his girlfriends and the girls that he worked with in campaigns. So I was super heartbroken, super sad, and I was sick as hell, you guys. Like, I had like physical issues. I was breaking down. So I went to a naturopathic doctor. I will never forget it. I was 123 pounds. He measured me. He said I had 3% body fat. And he literally told me, if you do not go home and start eating fat, like if you don't start literally tonight eating fats to put fat back onto your body, you will die. And I remember sitting there thinking, huh, does he mean that? Or is he just trying to scare me?
Right.
And I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, he's a naturopath, so like maybe he can say things like that and not like an actual. But then I thought, you know what? Either way, I think I should probably stop this. And that was the turning point. That's when I changed everything. And actually after that is when Project Runway came. I gained a little bit of weight. I didn't gain a lot, but I gained a little bit of weight back. And I told my agents, I'm not supposed to be doing fashion modeling. Just let me do TV commercials. I can't, this is not for me. I wasn't built this way.
That's so powerful, because I think that's you know, we had someone not that long ago who fit with her.
Oh yeah.
You know, she was talking about the things that sometimes women have to do. You know, you see the Instagrams, you see, you know, the images, and you're like, oh, you know, that body. And she's like, and she was saying, really, what you're saying is like, you don't know what it takes sometimes, and what we have to do to our bodies in order to achieve that. And it really is something where we're kind of going against our bodies, right? It's not this kind of peaceful relationship with it.
Yeah. I'm very curious how you feel the fact that now it has become like more inclusive, I guess, modeling. I still think fashion, you know, when you're talking about like big fashion shows, they're not as inclusive, but it has become a little bit more inclusive as far as like race, body shape, accepting different types of bodies and things like that. Do you think that's a good thing for the fashion industry?
Oh yeah, I mean it's so amazing, because I mean I'm only talking about, you know, 10 years ago, and I am just so amazed at like the fact that I can now say, yeah, like back when I was a model, you know, I mean, or even 8 years ago. I was on Project Runway 8 years ago, but you know, time now is so everything happens so fast. So it's really interesting to see how, you know, I feel even now. I'm 31 now, and you know, I have a healthy, thin body, but I'm curvy. I got a butt. I got big hips, you know, and I love that. I feel like there's a place for me even now. You know, I don't model like I used to. I don't go to auditions and things like that, but I still do campaigns. I still do social media partnerships that are like with major brands. And to me, what's so wonderful about not just the diversity, but the autonomy that people get to have now. Like, you're not a model. Like, you can be Joan Smalls. You can be, you know, Millana Snow for such and such brand. When I was, you know, working to be in the fashion industry, because it never actually worked for me. It wasn't until I transitioned to TV did things actually work for me. But when I was trying to be in the fashion industry, you were a model. There were no credits. It was so sad. There'd be credits for everybody else on the last page of the spread. And even to this day, they need to catch up on this. Fashion magazines still do this for the most part. There'll be, you know, makeup artist, photographer, stylist, all the credits for everybody else, even down to the assistant for the photographer, but they wouldn't put in our society, if you ask me. And so, you know, you look at now, not only do we have more diversity and inclusion with all sizes and backgrounds and the whole spectrum, but we also are giving women and men and people who are, you know, on the spectrum of gender autonomy.
Right.
And then that gives you the power to actually speak to how you want to do things, what you want to do. There's a lot of brands that I will not work with. There's a lot of things that I won't do. That's one of the reasons why I don't model anymore, because there are a lot of brands and companies that are not up to the standard of what I would want to represent or support. But what's really cool is I can actually do that now, and I can be named, and I can also speak to why I chose to work with certain brands, even if it's just on my social media. So I think all that coming together right now in the industry is what's changing it. I think that's why, you know, brands like Victoria's Secret are actually having a really hard time right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, just even how you were describing it, having more visibility, because it even sounds like just even the process of being a model, you have to just be shrinking, invisible, and we're not even going to recognize you. And it's so celebrated. So like this erasure really of our bodies, of just not being visible. Mm-hmm. And so totally. I love that not are you saying I'm more empowered now, I am more visible, but you're also creating spaces for others to heal and to have more visibility.
Right. So can we talk a little bit about the transition? Like, what was Serene Social and why and how it transitioned to Wellness Official?
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh. So when I started Serene, I was 25 years old, and I had set this intention to start a business that I could really, really be proud of. And I had a literal vision of doing rooftop yoga at the James Hotel in New York, which if anybody has ever been to New York or knows New York, that's like a really amazing rooftop in the middle of Soho, which has like practically a 360 view of the entire city. So I had this vision. I pitched it to my friend who was one of the managing partners of the space on that rooftop, and we actually pushed it through. And so in 2012, we started doing rooftop yoga. And at the time, it was for women only, and it was one of the ways that I felt was how I could bring all these women that I knew, all these powerhouse women in New York City, to come together in a more holistic way and in a more unifying way, because I think the women's, like, the resurgence of the women's movement was just starting at that time. A lot of women were still kind of feeling separated and not feeling super cohesive. So for me, that was my way of helping to bring the movement at that early stage back together. And so we started doing that in 2012, and it just really, it was amazing what happened after that. It became rooftop yoga in London and rooftop yoga in Los Angeles. And, you know, we started doing talks and dinners at like some of the top clubs in New York. I mean, nightclubs even, but they were like wellness based. Started working with major fashion brands like Alexander Wang, and partnered with Samsung and Smart Water before any of these brands were doing anything like this. You know, we were doing like Reiki circles at Alexander Wang, and I was like literally doing angel card readings on the side. I mean, it was just like it was amazing. It was so amazing. And I was like 25, you know, and I had just quit modeling, and I was just, you know, doing what I really felt was on my heart to do. And so I did that for a few years, and then I brought in 2 business partners to help me realize a bigger vision that I had, that I was feeling was coming into play. I was seeing Airbnb do things with community and hospitality. I felt like there was something about that kind of platform that needed to happen in the wellness industry. I felt like it was super siloed. So I brought 2 women in, and it ended up being that I really did not bring in the right partners, and I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I got to learn real fast in about a year what happens when those two things are happening at the same time. And I decided to just shut the whole business down and start over again so I could pursue this larger vision of bringing the global wellness community together. And something that happened in that process, because it was a very, very, very painful process where I was not allowed to tell anyone what was happening. I was not allowed to, there was all kind of legal issues and lots of really nasty, horrible things happening. And so I wasn't able to use my voice, and it really, actually, as a woman of color, you know, I'm half white, I'm half black. My dad's also from Panama, so I'm also a Latina, and I had all of these things coming together as a woman, feeling like I had been colonized, feeling like I had been, you know, taken advantage of because I was unaware of what was really happening. And so that actually turned the entire scenario on its head and made me realize that, oh my God, there's people in wellness who really give a damn about the mental health and wellness of all people all over the world, and they're not getting a voice. They've been colonized. They've been taken advantage of. So I have to start this over again. So I went and started a new company, raised money, and have built an international platform of holistic practitioners where inclusion and diversity is a driving factor and the foundation of the business, and it's because of what happened to me. And we're in the second phase of beta. We are testing it with real practitioners all over the world right now, and it is really like a true purpose in my life to get this out to the masses.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that, and you know, the theme I think of this month has been the struggle. Yeah, the struggle to get to, you know, to get to your purpose, to continue pushing forward, even when it seems bleak, even when it seems like we've been defeated, you know, to keep continuing moving forward. And I love that even within that even, it's almost like it fine-tuned even more your purpose of highlighting the diversity and more healers. And so I love what you're doing. And having directory also available for people, I think is so important.
Yeah, and it's cool. I feel like each phase of their story is based on, I went through something that if I hadn't, this wouldn't even have been the next step. You know, if I hadn't recognized that, you know, the fashion industry is not very welcoming to me or to what I have going on, if I had realized that dealing with people that don't respect my diversity and understand the struggles that I might go through and things like that, you know, you wouldn't have made it to this place. So I think that's amazing, just the story in itself. Mm-hmm. And then it's what your goal is. Practitioners that are focused on healing, things like that. So yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you
so
so
I know
much.
You, of course, you focus on mindfulness, and that's something that we use, I feel like, a lot, and sometimes people just don't even know what that means exactly when we talk about mindfulness. So can you share your perspective of mindfulness and how it can help with mental health?
Oh yeah, gosh, I have so many thoughts on that. So yeah, such a good question, especially as it pertains to mental health. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's, I'm not religious, but I've studied many religions, and one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible that I still think about and meditate on is, and I couldn't tell you exactly where in the Bible it is, but it says, pray without ceasing. Mm. And I find that across all religions and spiritual practices, this concept of to pray without ceasing is really about, to me, it means a mindful way of going about a constant connection to spirit, to your higher self, to this greater connection within you. And so one of the things that, you know, mindfulness means to me is I'm constantly observant of, like, what are my thoughts and also what are my prayers? How am I asking for help, or how am I speaking to what I don't desire, what is not helping me? And how can I constantly come back to being in a place where my thoughts are totally aligned with my spirit and my inner self and my higher self, which I believe is all one. So for me, I approach everything from a very spiritual lens. Mindfulness doesn't typically go that route, I find, in mainstream conversations. But for me, from a non-religious perspective, that's actually like a really big part of my mindfulness practice, that I'm constantly in this state of spiritual connection, that I'm constantly in prayer, and I'm constantly aware of how I'm speaking to myself, how I'm speaking to the universe, how I'm speaking to spirit, how I'm interacting with those parts of me. That's mindfulness. The other side, if you want to just completely take spirituality out of it, which I personally feel that they're all connected, but if that's not what resonates with you, I find that mindfulness is being fully present, being truly, truly present. And I have to say, from my practice as a healer, I do believe that presence comes in layers. Whenever I work with someone and I guide them into deeper presence, you're not going to get to presence like as soon as you sit down or as soon as you lay down, because unless you're a master meditator, we just don't have that ability. So to go through different layers of deeper presence, to me, is going through deeper layers of mindfulness practice. And so when you're truly, truly mindful, it's when you are 100% present with everything that is, and there's no judgment, there is no analyzation or something to do from that space. You just are, and all just is. And so that, to me, is the other side of how one could look at mindfulness and be mindful. And I use practices all day, every day to get to that place, whether that be prayer, meditation, gratitude, just observing, to be in true presence with the now, which I believe is infinite, where all things happen, past, present, and future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big answer. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, because I think that really highlights, for example, someone who's struggling with anxiety, how mindfulness can really help you to kind of, because with anxiety, we're in the future, right? Yeah. Like we're, oh my goodness, and this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or oh my, and so being able to train ourselves really and implement a practice where you're coming back to here, you can already begin to see some of these benefits that taking on a mindfulness practice would help us.
Right. And I'm curious because I know this is something we've kind of talked about, just different forms of healing. And while we are very therapy, of course, we understand there's so many ways to heal. And so when people are interested in Reiki and crystals and those type of things, what would be your suggestion about getting started? Like, what's the first step if you're interested in those type of healings?
Oh, that's such a good question. I get that question a lot, and my answer, I think, is always unsatisfying to everyone, but my answer is always to sit with yourself. Like it is, I really believe it is our job individually to find the tools that work for us. And I think it's like a proactive seeking priority, that we have to find what works for us. And so I just can't imagine how we can do that if we don't just sit with ourselves and find out what the hell's going on with you, And so when I say sit with yourself, you don't have to go and spend thousands of dollars on TM. You don't have to come to, Millana Snow for healing. All those things are great, but we can't really do anything for you if you haven't really just sat with yourself for a second, be alone, be quiet, and just keep inquiring, like, what's going on? Where am I? What do I need? Yeah. What is necessary for me right now to heal? And to give yourself that space and that time and that privacy and intimacy to really find out what I need to move forward with my healing. So I always say that it's really, and it's free. You don't have to pay anybody for this. Now, if you have a busy house, you might have to go somewhere. If you live in the city, you might be hard pressed to find a space, but you can do this anywhere. You can do this on the subway in New York City. But to just really turn your music off, close your door, go into your closet, hide under your bed, I don't know, whatever you're going to do, and sit with yourself and inquire and just be quiet and see what comes up, and notice how crazy your thoughts are. Notice how negative you feel. Feel into how you can't stop thinking about what's next. and sit with that and be like, wow, for the first time, I'm recognizing I'm angry. I'm super mad at people. And then from there, you can start to inquire and say, what do I need to support me in this process? But we have to really start getting to a place where we can actually have the space and the intimacy to know where we are at, so that when we make choices about seeking help and support, we actually know ourselves well enough to know what we need.
Sure. We got to do the work.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's a great answer, because a lot of times when people do seek help, they're looking for someone else to tell them what they need.
Right.
And so then that's why sometimes those experiences are so unsatisfactory, or you feel like you're not getting exactly what you need, because you haven't even recognized either what the issue is or what you're seeking healing in. I think that's a wonderful answer.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you have any favorite resources or books or podcasts that you would like to suggest for people?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, Melanin Mental Health, obviously. You guys are doing amazing work. I'm so grateful that you guys have created what you have. It's really powerful. And I don't know if you guys both knew this, but I reached out to you because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, this is so necessary. So thank you guys for everything that you do. I would say other resources. I really love YouTube. I think there's a lot of really amazing people and resources there. And if, some of my clients and friends have said, like, I can't necessarily afford to get all these books all day long, or, it's tough for me to get to these resources. So I like to always just direct people to YouTube, and you can literally look up search terms like, how to meditate. And you can just go through videos and find things there. I really love Abraham Hicks, by the way, which is a teacher that is very big on the law of attraction. And their overall message is to just feel good, to get into a good feeling place. And they simplify the hell out of it. But I've worked with that teaching for many, many years, and it's really been powerful in my life and in my teaching. So I highly recommend Abraham Hicks through YouTube, and they have lots of books as well. I also have a few resources on my end that I'd love to invite people into. I have a monthly energy healing group that actually has a private face group here on Facebook, and we do energy healing every single first Sunday of the month, and they're archived for you to continue to watch. And we also are currently doing a daily meditation called the Har Meditation for Prosperity, which is a 40-day Kundalini practice to focus on breaking down the barriers to prosperity within yourself, which has been crazy. And that is together with a group on Facebook. So that Facebook group, anybody coming from that, hi guys, it is so alive in that group. Oh my God, it's amazing. So if you want to learn from these practices, you want to receive energy healing even through the airwaves like this, it is possible, and we do it every single month. So you can go to patreon.com/Millana Snow or DM me, and I'll tell you more about that. And then I would say other resources that I find to be really supportive and helpful is actually Instagram, and just typing in hashtags like, hashtag Kundalini or hashtag meditation. Like, we have all these resources around us. It's really like just seeking through it, because I could give you a book, and I will mention some books. I could give you some people, but it's really about what comes down to what suits you and who you find to be resonant with you. So, go through my Instagram, see who I follow, go through the Melanin Mental Health following, see who they follow. And in terms of books, lastly, I would say one of the books that really changed my life was The Celestine Prophecy. I talk about that a lot. The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. That really changed my perspective and helped me actually win Project Runway. That was like because Project Runway was a spiritual experience for me, and it was through the practices I learned in that book that I actually feel like was a major factor for me winning. I also love Conversations with God. I think that's a great book to open your mind about who God is and who you are. And then I also love New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, which is a little bit of a dense reading, so I like to recommend people listen to that as an audiobook. But those are just three that come off the top of my mind that I think can just help open up new things in our minds that we didn't have access to based off of how most of us were raised here in the States.
Right. That's great. I really like the fact that you gave a lot of like free resources in the beginning because I'm really big on kind of curating your life, curating your social media and stuff like that. So to be able to start your day, I start my day with YouTube. That's just what I do. I go in and I do,
Me too.
either I'm looking at money stuff about inspiration, or I'm looking at, mental health and fidelity, learning new skills. Like YouTube is the start of my day because I know that I can get good information that then directs how I spend the rest of my day.
Right.
And so I like those resources. Yeah. So tell people why you're dope.
That's great. That's a great question. Oh my gosh. Wow. I would say because I really care about people. I really want to make an impact on this planet to the point where sometimes it can be a real burden on myself that I impose on myself that's not necessary. And so even that, I have to go back to my why, like that I really want to make an impact while I'm here on this planet, and that I better treat myself good and love myself when I don't feel like I can do that, so that I can go back and do more of that. Yeah, I really fucking care about people on this planet, and I would not be, starting a tech company for the second time. I wouldn't be doing energy healing. I wouldn't have been broke for 6 years to finally have a place where I could then have a platform and could then have the ability to travel and meet more people if it weren't for a deep, deep desire to make an impact, to make this world a better place through people.
Right.
So I think I'll give myself that credit.
The last question is, why is therapy or healing dope?
Oh my gosh. So I go to a teacher that is also my therapist every other week, Dr. Clara. She's changed my life. I notice a distinct difference when I don't go to her. My life is not as wonderful. I'm not as happy. I'm not as physically healthy. And she even helps me make more money. Damn it. Like I go to her and I notice that I make more money because I come to her and I get my mind and my spirit in alignment. And it is because I have a therapist and a teacher and a mentor that I pay to do that every other week, if not more, when needed. So I can just say from my own personal experience, speaking to my own lived experience, having a therapist and a mentor and or a teacher, all of those things I find can be in one or with a few people, is integral to my mental, emotional, physical, and financial and relational health on every front. So if you're looking for that, it is 1,000% worth the investment, because I know that sometimes we have a issue around dropping like 150 to sometimes as much as 300 for sessions and things like that. It is priceless to do that. So yeah, priceless. That's why it's dope. It's priceless.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So tell me how to find you, how they keep up with you. We'll make sure to post all of this in the show notes as well.
Yeah, thank you. So you can find me at Millana Snow on Instagram. My platform that is launching and is currently in beta. So if you'd like to be a practitioner on the platform, you can go to wellnessofficial.co or visit our Instagram, which is at WellnessOfficial. And if you're interested in getting some regular resources of what I use for meditation, the tools that I find are helpful for my own practice and for my clients, and to also receive monthly energy healing, you can go to patreon.com/Millana Snow, and that's MILLANASNOW. If you just type in Millana Snow, there's just a bunch of stuff.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We definitely will put all of that in the show notes so everybody can find you and support. And I'm thinking of people that we know here that are like naturopaths and stuff like that we could possibly try to get to sign up for.
We need to get Houston on the map, you guys. Yes. Yes.
So we are hopeful to continue to do some work with Millana at some point. Thank you to everyone that is joining us. This is the last show of the year.
Woo!
Yes.
Yes.
we are taking a short break, and we'll be back next year. Make sure you follow us across social media at Melanin and Mental Health, Melanin Health on Twitter, and check out melaninandmentalhealth.com. We have new people signing up for the directory every day, so make sure that you get on there to find a dope therapist, or if you are a dope therapist, sign up for the directory.
Yes.
New year, new mindset, who this? Who this? Merchandise is on the website as well. Appreciate everybody, and we will talk to y'all next time.
Yes. Thank you, Millana.
Thank you, Millana.
Thank you, guys. Bye. Happy holidays.
Bye.